welcome everyone here. As always, thank everyone for taking time out of their day. For those that didn't have to work today, I am not one of them, but again, I appreciate it. We will go right into the first item, which is OPM update. So that puts Sam and/or Eric up to bat.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Go right ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Nate. I believe this went out either Friday or Saturday from Sharon, so everybody should have had time to kind of go through the document. Only one item on our design and permitting coordination right now. It's RIDOT. I think we're closing in on this. We have final coordination happening between RIDOT and the city of East Providence, as well as the adjacent parcel across the street, just to finalize the loop easements. And then Eric, I think that should close that item out. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I don't believe there's anything left after the easements is executed.
Great.
Can I ask a question about that real quick?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's got to come to the council for vote? I saw an email from Eric and talked to Craig a little bit.
So historically, what we did for the national grid easement for the utility poles was that went in front of the council for a vote prior to requesting the mayor's signature.
Okay.
We figured it was the same process for this line.
Okay.
And when I received a call from the DOT on Friday, and they're thinking another month before the final document will be ready. So.
Anything else on that, Nate, specifically?
No, I'm just thinking when it's got to go, just give it to me, because a lot of times it's tough to get something on the docket if it's not a council member putting it there. So just
Sure.
give it, make sure it gets there.
Will do. Great. Monthly meeting with building officials. We have our next meeting actually this Wednesday. One of the things that we're starting to work on is a temporary heating plan for the winter. The officials want to just make sure we've got a plan that's, is going to be safe for the building and everybody inside of it as we ramp up into this temporary heating season, which is really going to last us probably well into, early spring. So I know they'll be reviewing that this week. In addition, we've been having repeated discussions with not only the building officials, but all the public safety officials, just regarding kind of ongoing security protocol discussions throughout the building. So I would say that the fire marshal's office, the police department have all been really great participants in these discussions as we've been evolving, meeting once or twice over the last month or so, and again in the next few weeks. Commissioning, our team continues to be out there really focusing on envelope. They were out there 5 times in September, and they've been out, and they were out once in September as well for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. So our commissioning team is, it's kind of fully ramped up with all the subs that are the applicable subs on site, and are really, a part of the weekly discussions that are happening out in the field to make sure that we're checking all the boxes from a commissioning standpoint. Major milestones, glazing, which is a fancy word for glass. For those folks, I know there's been some team members out there in the last couple of weeks. At last month's report, none of the glass was in. And right now you have a significant amount of the kind of the regular windows on the upper floors are in. We'll talk a little bit more about the progress that's going to be happening in October. FF&E coordination is ongoing. We've significantly ramped up with both the leadership team at the district as well as the school, and then drilling down with the department leadership as well, as we kind of march through kind of the fall in anticipation of the kind of the procurement step that we know we're going to be taking in January into February. So that work is ongoing, regular meetings happening, I think pretty much weekly now, Eric.
Yeah, we've been the coordination with the superintendent's been fantastic. We've been exchanging Excel spreadsheets, getting updates. Our design team's putting together something right now that's kind of a collaboration of what we got from those spreadsheets to give an idea of where we stand within the projected budget. So in the first or second week within the next 2 weeks, we'll be meeting again to talk more in depth about it.
Do we anticipate going out for RFP in January, February, what?
I think February, Eric, unless the schedule shifted at all with AI3, I think February was our kind of procurement window. Is that correct?
We had that designed, the CDs getting done between like December 15 to January 15, and then going out to bid between January 15, February 15, and that might shift a couple weeks here and there.
Okay. I only asked, I just want to make sure that, Craig, would we go through city purchasing for that, or we do that ourselves in the school department?
So we will run the RFP through the school department. I already had a conversation with Finance Director Moore about setting up how he wanted to set up either purchase orders or a one purchase order to draw down on. So just to give him a heads up. So.
Okay, yeah, I imagine when we go out with that, we're going to be on a tight timeline. I just don't want them to kind of hold it up there.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the goal with that, Nate, will be it'll be publicly advertised, just like all your other major procurement steps have been for the project. So, Projo, Legals, the City of Newport website, which is kind of that clearinghouse for the state, and then obviously, however the district and or the city kind of place, legal advertisements out in the network as well, and the goal will be to be working towards that date in parallel on kind of the contractual, the RFP language, all those types of items, so that when we get to that date where we're ready to go, we've already kind of vetted the documentation side of it, so that everything's kind of stitched together and ready to run.
Got it.
Just other major milestones. I can't believe we're already talking about it, but starting up mechanical equipment right after the first of the year. That'll be your major rooftop units. We are going to be talking about millwork and casework finishes coming in February. That's one of the other reasons why not only just for the team's comfort within the building as they're doing their work, but you'll see that the building, most of the openings right now have been completely filled either with glass or with a temporary condition, because as they start to heat up the building, we want to get it to the right temperature so that we can actually be installing those finishes, whether it's paint, adhesives, millwork. So you're going to see that throughout the end of this year into next year. We're trying to get those spaces enclosed and warm enough so that the trades can continue to do some of that more temperature sensitive work throughout the building. Just a kind of our up to minute financial snapshot. And again, this is real time. So this will look a little bit different than the budget at the end of the document. But right now we're trending based on approved ATPs as well as ATPs under review. And assuming that those would all be approved and move forward with, we're at about 85% remaining of our owner's contingency. Just as a comparison, back in September, we were at 87%. So we've consumed about 2% more since last month. Construction contingency is about the same trend, a little bit more. We were at 99.4% last month. Now we're at 96.5%. And again, these are regular recurring activities. The team monitors on a weekly basis. We review these activities with the procurement working group. So there's a heavy level of scrutiny that goes into kind of the roll up that you see on this document here. Owner allowances. Those actually did not move in the last month. We were at 94.8 back in September. We remain at 94.8. What we do have though for our first time is a drawdown on the COVID allowance. So last month this number was intact at $1 million. We have drawn down the $162,000 that you see here, and this is really related to finally catching up on the paperwork of all what I'll say is kind of the general requirements that were required really from March all the way through to August. So that was whatever forms of, cleaning we had to do, provisions of supplies, masks, whatever PPE was required, as well as the major consumer of those dollars, which was the temperature check functionality that we started with, which was a person basically on site going through the checks, which has now evolved into basically a purely technology based where the trades come in, they self-check, they scan a Q code, they answer questions, and assuming both those things pass, then they're able to kind of move on. So this is that cost since March when all the restrictions were invoked, as well as trade costs, some limited trade costs through July. We do know that there's been additional requests for trade costs against this COVID, or that were COVID related. Those have not been presented or fully analyzed yet, so we're not going to bring those up until we've kind of done our due diligence. But this shows you that we will have some utilization of this line item, and this is kind of getting us relatively up to speed. I would say at this point we're probably about a month behind, just given how the paperwork process is through from Gilbane to approval on the ownership side.
Sam, who signs off on all of this? Is it you, or is it the district who signs off before the expenditure has occurred?
So it's a layered process, Bob. So what we do is anytime there is a change or a request for a drawdown on allowance, actually, let me clarify. If it is a change, then it goes through a pretty rigorous process. It's advanced to the OPM and the AE team. Both sides do their analysis, and then that is further debated with the CM. And then ultimately, if we come to consensus between the team and the CM, then we present it to the working group, which meets weekly. Then the working group goes through an equally vigorous debate about every single line item. And then sometimes that it's approved, or other times we go back with more questions or further discussion with Gilbane. On the COVID items specifically,
Yeah, that's what I was interested in,
those
COVID items.
Yep. So the COVID items thus far have gone through equally rigorous a process, where we basically have gone through, because we've known about a lot of these costs for a while, and it's taken a while for them to get all the paperwork on their side. So it's gone through that same review where OPM and AE do the first review. We try to get to consensus with the CM based on our position on the process, and then we brought it forward to that working group as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sam, is any of this covered through FEMA at all?
So I think that's a question for the district and the city as to eligibility, John.
Okay.
I would suspect that it would be, but we're not as close as a lot of you folks are as far as kind of what checks the box for eligibility versus whether it's CARES or some other source of dollars. I would certainly think that this appears to qualify, but I don't know if Craig or anybody else on the district team has evaluated that specifically. And John, maybe you've seen it up in Lincoln too, so I'm not sure.
Well, I know we're trying to submit that to FEMA. I mean, it's a long waiting period there too, so it's not. It can take some time. So.
Yep. Yeah, I do know that there are some hard stops. I know the CARES dollars, I think, right, at least last thing I understood was there was a December 31 hard stop on eligible costs. So I don't know if that date is moved and whether there's other sources that maybe are more applicable versus those monies.
So, John, I can say that I did have a discussion with the city on Friday. For our initial submissions for FEMA, we had put in for all the expenses for the school lunch program, for the busing that we did, and we were denied on that, despite all of the relevant federal law, state law that we had. The person coordinating for the city had said, really the only people that on this first round that got reimbursed were all police and fire. And for all the cleaning supplies, about $88,000 that we submitted, I think we're getting, the only ones that they considered reimbursing, we're getting about $11,000 back. So, so I don't know if this will go anywhere with FEMA at this,
Yep.
but so see.
Thanks, Craig.
If no other questions, I'll continue on. Great. 4-week look ahead, again, too small for people to look at, but what I'll do is I'll use the photos on the next page and give everybody just a kind of a summary. I do know that several folks over the last, I think, 1 to 2 weeks have been able to walk the building. I think Eric had a fairly good sized group 2 Thursdays ago, and I know the superintendent walked last week. Again, we continue to have roughly 14 different trade groups on site. Some of those are kind of in the final stages, like some of the concrete guys, some of the steel guys, as they're starting to wrap up with some of their major punch list and smaller items. But just starting kind of from the outside in site work, they continue to do significant grading, utility, and earthwork activities throughout the site. If you were there in the last week, you really got to see kind of the shape of the track really coming into much clearer vision. The drain is being laid around the perimeter, which is one of the first key pieces of infrastructure that has to go in as you start to build that track up. Also in the exterior, even though it's another building, the halftime building is moving right along compared to where we saw it last month. Working kind of from the outside in, glass and glazing. And again, these pictures are a little bit hard to read, but what you see is a significant amount of the glazing and the storefronts have been put in. So a lot of the upper story glass has been in or is going in as we speak. And then what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks is the major kind of what we call the curtain wall components, which is some of your pieces along your corners, down along the front of the gym, and some of the other major kind of architectural pieces where you have significant glass components on the site. Just working back into the inside, framing and drywall continues, again, working from kind of south to north. The level of finish that we're seeing in a lot of the classrooms on that south end is almost paint ready or prime ready. You'll see that along in the hallways as well. And then we're also seeing significant utility work, both on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, where major roughing is underway, and some of your larger components are either in or being put in throughout the building. So again, I think the site visits for everybody are very useful just to really get a handle on, both the pace of play as well as the kind of the magnitude of the space. I know when we were walking out there the other day, the auditorium, it seems like every week is starting to look a little bit different, and the gymnasium, the 2 double gyms are really starting to take shape, with a complete track around the top side. You've got railings in now, and a lot of those CTC spaces as well down on that end of the building are really starting to take shape.
But what you will not see is wallpaper. There have been some local rhubarb, Sam, with regard to us saving money through the use of somewhat less than industry standard materials. So just want to point that out.
Like wallpaper?
Wallpaper was specifically referenced, yes.
Wallpaper is actually more expensive than paint.
Well, shows what I know, but that was the concern. So in any event, there's no wallpaper.
Can I tell you? I toured the building myself on Friday, and I was just amazed and overwhelmed by what the students are going to experience when they see it fully done in September of 2021. I was able to look down and see the gym. I was able to look down and see the auditorium. Hold on. Okay, no. I was able to look down to see the library media center. You look out on the field, you can see the track almost finished. It's light, it's bright. it's just going to be a beautiful asset to the city of East Providence and to those students. I really am grateful to the citizens who voted for this. I was just overwhelmed by it, you know, as I see it coming, you know, together since the last time I saw it was really just with steel beams up and the floors were down and, you know, there were some walls up, but this was amazing to see the amount of work that's done in a few months and amazing to see the building. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, don't go a month without walking because the things are happening quick out there. Gilbane is, you know, and all the trades out there, I think, are really, you know, keeping us on schedule. And you know, obviously not without challenges out there, but you know, I think it's going remarkably well given
Really?
everything that happened in the last 6 months. So.
Yep.
And then finally, just a budget update. Again, no major movements except in the 2 line items that we're going to see kind of every month. We do have a change order and consistent with the kind of the illustration that we did last month. This month we processed OCO3, and that included it included a lot of line items, but the 2 major ones were actually alternates that were within the GMP that had not yet been selected. So the first was the greenhouse, and the second was the equipment for the halftime building. So all the kitchen equipment that goes in there. So those rolled up there, and there was also several kind of credits and debits that relatively neutralized each other out. So the baseline of the cost, or the majority of the cost, is in those 2 items between the greenhouse and the halftime equipment. If we take that number and go up top, we'll see that that has been added to Gilbane's total contract value, and again reduced down on the contingency line item to show that basically no net change to the total project budget, but again a continued reduction of that contingency as we start to add additional items and see change orders come through.
So Sam, just because I don't have the GMP document right in front of me, can you remind me what the additional alternate numbers are that are going to drive adjustments in that line coming up? Or do we have any left at this point?
Eric, what are some of the bigger items that we have left on the alt side?
The biggest ones we have are in phase 2. They're going to be soils for the building foundation. We can get you a more detailed description emailed over to you by the end of the day Tuesday. There's not many left, but the biggest one we have is just over $200,000 for soil.
I don't need it. That's enough. That's good enough, Eric.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we've got some additional. So Eric, that's if we find additional, or we have additional unsuitables. Was that what that alt was?
No, that was to reuse existing materials on site to backfill the foundation. There was actually a credit of $200,000, but there's risk involved with that.
So we haven't taken that credit yet. It's sitting there kind of depending on what the condition is that we find.
Correct. We were told we had until the start of phase 2 to make that determination. And we figured based upon the budget and the trending where we were going, we would make that decision and make a recommendation on that.
At that time. Okay. Right. Yeah, so I would say that most of the, and Eric, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, Nate, to your question, you know, the major kind of physical attributes of the project, I would say that with the greenhouse, that's probably one of the last kind of major attributes that, you know, kind of people think of kind of the program elements for the building. And then you do have these kind of trailing items, especially in phase 2, as it's more site work related.
Copy, Sam. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
And that's the conclusion of the report.
Hey, Sam, can I just point something out quickly?
Yes, sir.
Just so you, for everybody's, I don't know, general sense of comfort, I guess. You know, we're going through the budget process right now for the city. Budget year for East Providence ends 31 October. In the FY21 budget, what the administration has done is to propose to break up the debt service for the bond over a course of basically 3 years. So what they've done is they've budgeted a significant portion of what the ultimate debt service is going to be in the current year. And that's really a good strategy from a citywide financing perspective, because, you know, there are limits in what we can do to raise taxes, et cetera. So we don't want to get hit with it all at the same time. So that's, that's really kind of excellent news that, you know, the administration is paying attention to that. And I know a lot of that is because of the work that's being done through the weekly or biweekly meetings that, you know, you and Craig are having with them to keep them on track with finances. So, I'm going to continue to stay focused on contingencies and change orders for those very reasons. But it looks like from the big picture standpoint, we're in very good shape.
Yeah, I think the borrowing environment too is extremely favorable, right? So that's
For
just
now,
helping
yeah.
people, stretch those dollars even farther.
Yep.
Nate,
Sir.
Has the city set a timeline for bonding? What?
Yeah, there is, Manny. There, and I can't. We got the briefing several months ago. Malcolm laid it out for us. I can't recall it off the top of my head. Craig might have that information more readily available, but I can certainly get you the details. We did see it. It was a good plan. It made sense at the time. I think I talked to Sam and Craig and let them know that I had seen it, and what the city was proposing, or what the administration was proposing, looked sound. But I will have to owe you exactly what the timeline is, and which bonds come in and when.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a staggered process. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's not all one fell swoop.
Right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Nate.
Yep.
And I guess just to kind of repeat and summarize, so we get the head nod from Sam and Eric for public purposes. Don't shake your head, Eric. I see. No, but we're in good shape when we consider these, where we're sitting budget wise relative to other projects with the experience that your team has. Just as a city, as a district, there's nothing of concern for us at this point. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think, Joel, the fact that we're through a lot of the kind of the biggest exposure areas, which is when you dig out, you dig the hole and you find stuff when you dig the hole. We still have that exposure with the demolition and the site work on the front, but right. I think through kind of careful adjustments of these contingencies to do that carve out for the demo specifically, that between that and just the general contingency that you have available, I would say right now you appear to be on pretty solid footing as with regards to kind of your remaining available contingency, and knowing that we've bought out the entire job, through the GMP process. So I think you're as good as you can be at this point, especially given how far you are into the construction process.
Okay, just want to have you say it again.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll continue to get that, because again, the numbers are larger than most are used to seeing, and when they shift around, it's a little alarming. So,
sure.
You're speaking, you have a frame of reference to
right
kind of provide that assurance. So.
Yeah, and I would say that to the collective credit of the group, I mean the between the building committee, the district, and the kind of the working group on the procurement side, I mean, there's no stone unturned when we go through any changes that come through this process. So just when Eric and I think that we've got something that makes sense, this collective team beats us up as well on it, and that's good, right? I think that's to ensure that every question's asked and answered on a specific item, whether it's for $1,000 or for $100,000. So we want to make sure that we're applying that level of scrutiny across all aspects of the project.
All right. Any other questions on the OPM update? Okay, we'll move on. I'm going to kick it to you, Craig, on the consider and vote to approve invoices for city reimbursement to the East Providence School Department.
So for the month of September 2020, the following invoices require approval. AI3 basic services.
Can I pause you for a second?
Sure can.
I'm sorry, Craig. So on the, not on the invoices for services, but on this reimbursement from the.
Oh,
from the
sure. I'm
city.
sorry. Yep. So this is the last bit, I think the last bit for the legal bills that we had paid. So yep. So this is for legal bills from the spring that were due to the contract negotiations. $2,432.75 is owed back to the school department. So asking for approval for that.
Any questions from the committee?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a
I
motion
second
by,
that.
and a motion by Mr. Vinatero, second by Mr. Wagon. All in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so that passes, and now we'll go on, Craig, to
Great.
the invoices for services. Thank you.
Okay, AI3 basic services, $122,474.84. AI3 extra services, $1,193.50. AI3 reimbursable, $634.27. Gilbane Building Company, $9,956,457.59. Peregrine Group LLC, $59,000. Filch Engineering, $9,875. Stephen Turner Inc., $2,967.53. Combining that with the reimbursement to the schools, the total for the month of September is $10,155,035.48.
By the way, that wasn't me laughing at $10 million. Just for the record.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Fiola. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McNamee. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And again, did I hear you correctly, Craig, you said that included the reimbursement, which was the previous item?
Yes, it did, correct.
Okay. Next item is consider and vote to approve the minutes from September 14, 2020. Any discussion, any questions?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion by Superintendent Crowley, second by Mr. Vinatero. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're good with the minutes. And next is our next meeting date, which,
Before we do that, I wanted to say thank you to Eric for leading us around the site about 2 weeks ago. Minnie and I and Joel and all of us had a very good tour. It was really phenomenal. As Kathy said, it looks amazing. It's just absolutely going to be spectacular for the city. So very, very proud of it. The tour went very well, Eric said, because Sam wasn't there. So we got a lot of work done. Just protect me, right?
Bob, I saw that hurt.
Bob, I will say it was good on that walk to have you out there because again, and I say it over and over again, the vast skill sets that we have on this team, coming in from the professional background. So to have you walk through and to just kind of hear the questions that you're throwing at Eric that are in your wheelhouse that wouldn't come up otherwise. It's educational for myself and I'm sure for others, but it's also comforting, right? Because Eric is definitely on his game because he's right there with the responses, with the information, and it's just comforting to see the level of detail that is being covered, and it's exposed when when, folks like Bob and, Steve Amoroso and, Gene, when professionals from the industry are walking the site, we're just, I mean, I'm already in awe walking the building, but to hear the level of detail in those conversations, again, it's educational, but it's comforting and appreciated.
Yeah, and ours is a total team effort. It's Sam, Dan, Mark. It's every person that's part of our team, even though you don't see them every day. Everyone contributes equally, and without the whole team working together, we wouldn't be where we're at. So
It's
Yeah,
really a
thank you.
great team. I've been through a lot of construction projects over the years, and you're doing very, very well for the city. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
we appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
And Gil Bain on that walk, right? So we had a leader accompany us on that walk, and it's good to, they want to make sure that they're staying engaged and, listening to the questions. So no, it's they're definitely worth their time and rewarding too. So, all right,
Joel,
And
can I ask
then-
one question
I just-
quickly?
please.
Oh, go ahead, Manny. You go first.
I just wanted to echo Kathy's feelings. The things that are being done for the upcoming students in East Providence are remarkable. That building is going to be so spectacular, and I can't wait to see the faces on the students who have had a couple of years in the old building when they first enter the new building. It's going to be like going into a parallel universe. It's just breathtaking. It's something for the entire community and the state of Rhode Island to be very proud of. And I'm so happy to be part of it. Okay, Nate, it's all yours.
Oh, what you had to say was much better than I do. Joel, just to clarify, the invoices come from here. They are still going to the school committee for approval, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. So tomorrow evening, these invoices will be before the school committee for approval with the recommendation of the building committee.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's all I had.
Okay. Any other discussion?
The next meeting date, Joel, I think our school committee is a week earlier because of election, isn't it? Is it a week?
No, because a week earlier, so the election's on the 3rd, which is the first Tuesday.
Okay, so it's the Tuesday. still.
We're still set up on the 10th, so we should be good for the 9th for the building committee meeting for November 9th.
November.
Is everyone in agreement on that?
Mhm.
I'm okay.
Okay. And beyond that, again, I have nothing more. If anyone else has anything to say, I know our administrators, Dr. Fran has plenty of work waiting to be tackled.
Don't
So
go up the meeting, Sandra.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Wagan with the motion. And I'm sorry, the second was from Craig?
That's me.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.